here's my steps for stopping this ever happening again at any of the big four accounting or law firms. All auditors, forensic accountants, and IT forensic staff must become licensed investigators. The current blanket exemption they all enjoy in our regime has failed. They're auditors, they're investigators like you and I. Their forensic accountants are investigators like you and I. Just because they've got a double accounting degree doesn't mean they can interview a witness and take a statement. Doesn't mean they understand records of interview, and doesn't mean they understand legislation acts, and certainly doesn't mean how to handle sensitive information. So they've got to have full training suite in that. Certificate 3 investigative services will cover it. They get out of being licensed by saying, we've got a double degree in accounting, we don't need a license. When they have a license check for criminal history, and if they're an appropriate person to hold a license, that's a prevention strategy that works. Number 2, weekly drug tests for all partners of any firms that receive a tender from AusTender or any kind of government tender. Weekly drug tests for all the partners. That solves my issue with the 10-foot tall and bulletproof attitude, because that's gone now, if you want to keep working there. Step 3 to prevent this ever happening again. A $100 million surety paid to the Australian Taxation Office as a fidelity guarantee against future tax avoidance. And if it happens, they just take that money out of that surety. This protects you, the taxpayer, and me, the taxpayer, and the ATO, and our state and federal governments. And hopefully the money will go to education of children, aged care, hospitals, the police. The criminals have better guns than the cops do. The ambulance service. This money went to multinationals who avoided tax. If we'd got that tax, the police would be better armed than the crims. The ambulances wouldn't be ramping. Step 4, and this is the most important one of all. This is the big leveller. It shits me because the little girl in the wheelchair, who's 5 years old and itching to go to school, needs another wheelchair. Her heart's pumping out of her chest to go and play with some friends, and they don't get that wheelchair because the money from the tax is ripped off by crooks. I don't like it. So I never have any sympathy for crooks. Okay. Anyway, this is my final one. We have today the technology to do this. If you win a government tender and you are billing services to the government, I want to see what you bill on a transparent website that I can see it, updated every 15 minutes, the service provided, the time it took for that service, the amount invoiced, who did it, and what their qualifications were. So if a barrister says they took a phone call and at 6 minutes time, which they always do it in 6-minute increments, and it cost $5,000, I want to know who it was from. Why it cost $5,000. If the office administrator sends an email and bills $3,000 for a 40-second email, it must have been a damn important email, and I want to know. I'm a taxpayer. So if you want to win a government tender, you do this. So those steps, they're my personal ones. Right? Now, I don't think anyone will take me fully seriously, but you can't tell me they don't have the software to do that transparent system that's there in front of your face right now. That'll make a few people very nervous. So all in all, people, it is not about parading people's head around on a stick, leaving it and moving on to the next one and leaving everyone within the department devastated. It's not about that. You never thought it was about that. It goes to, we find out what happened. We look at what Here we go. Policy, attitude, training, information, skill, or knowledge gap led to the ATO missing out on that money as a result of PricewaterhouseCoopers and the tax avoidance and multinationals.